Stop the Nazi games indeed. Hallo allemaal, daar zijn we er weer. RHTV live vanuit het mooie Maastricht. Ja. En natuurlijk gaan we kijken naar politiek en geopolitiek. So we are streaming live from Maastricht, which is in the south of the Netherlands. And of course we're going to look at politics and geopolitics. And vandaag gaan we even een heel cascade van onderwerpen behandelen. En de eerste wat we gaan behandelen is wat Gideon Vermeijeren in de Tweede Kamer heeft gezegd over ritueel kindermisbruik en zoiets. So we're going to take a look at Gideon van Meijeren from the FVD, who talks about child molestation and stuff like that, ritual child molestation in the Netherlands. And we're going to take a listen to what Gideon Vermeijeren has to say. And basically he says there are high people involved, right? We know the Demming case, and that is still not solved, you know, and Gideon Vermeijeren is basically ringing the bell. Ja, we gaan even kijken naar Gideon Vermeijeren, mensen, over ritueel kindermisbruik.
Vastgebonden, verkracht en op de meest wrede wijze worden gemarteld door in een rituele setting te worden onderworpen aan elektroshocks, wurging, genitale verminking en andere ronduit beestachtige behandelingen. Het is puur satanisch. Het is pure kwaadaardigheid en het is zelfs zo walgelijk dat veel mensen eigenlijk niet kunnen of willen geloven dat zoiets überhaupt bestaat. Maar na diepgravend journalistiek onderzoek kwam in de jaren 2019 en 2020 aan het licht dat deze afschuwelijke vorm van misbruik ook in Nederland voorkomt. In georganiseerd verband. Door netwerken die onder andere zouden bestaan uit machtige personen die zich in hoge kringen begeven. Advocaten, rechters, politici, topmannen uit het bedrijfsleven en ook hooggeplaatste ambtenaren. Waaronder afkomstig uit kringen binnen en rondom het ministerie van Justitie. In oktober 2020...
Momentje, meneer Van Meijeren, dat ik u even onderbreken. Heeft u een interruptie of een punt van orde, mevrouw Steinhagen? Een interruptie.
Ja, dank u wel, voorzitter. Voorzitter, ik las dat de heer Van Meijeren vandaag precies 1072 dagen lid is van deze Tweede Kamer. En ik wil hem graag vragen via u, voorzitter, wat heeft de heer Van Meijeren als gemeenteraadslid, statenlid of in die 1072 dagen als Kamerlid nou precies gedaan om slachtoffers van seksueel misbruik te helpen?
De heer Van Meijeren.
Ja, voorzitter, heel erg bedankt voor deze vraag. Dat u mij de gelegenheid biedt om hier nader op in te gaan. Ik krijg gelukkig veel lof van slachtoffers van deze vreselijke vorm van misbruik die blij zijn dat er überhaupt eindelijk iemand is die dit ter sprake brengt. Hierdoor is waarschijnlijk veel meer bewustzijn gecreëerd.
Wij bij RHTVLive vinden het ook geweldig wat je doet, Gideon, dat je deze dingen aanhaalt. Ja, dat is heel erg mooi. Het is ook een stinkende doofpot. En ja, er moet iets aan gedaan worden. Maar ja, de Kamer moet wel meehelpen. So, Gideon, good on you for saying all this stuff, right, about sexual abuse, ritual abuse, and stuff like that. You know, good on you. We are standing right next to you in this fight.
Over dit onderwerp. Ik heb me ervoor hard gemaakt om een onderzoek in te stellen naar dit fenomeen dat onafhankelijk is van het ministerie van Justitie. En nou ja, ik krijg van politieke tegenstanders vaak het verwijt dat ik mijn werk niet goed zou doen. Nou ja, gelukkig zit ik hier niet voor u. Ik vertegenwoordig u ook niet. Ik vertegenwoordig mijn achterban, de kiezers van Forum voor Democratie, die gelukkig bij iedere verkiezing door het uitbrengen van hun stem laten merken dat ze mijn werk wel heel erg kunnen waarderen. Dus dat steunt mij heel erg om op deze manier door te gaan.
Gideon, ik ken je niet, maar ik heb wel op je gestemd. En de reden dat ik op jou gestemd heb, is omdat jij voor de rechter staat. De FVD wordt gemarginaliseerd, wordt aan de kant gezet en zoiets allemaal. Nee, zo hoort het niet in een democratie. Je behoort naar elkaar te luisteren en ook elkaar serieus te nemen. Dit is geen rare complottheorie. Het gebeurt al jaren in Nederland. Jaren. Door allerlei instellingen en belangrijke mensen.
Nog een vervolgvraag. Ik wil de collega's wel oproepen om het te beperken tot het onderwerp van dit debat. Mevrouw Steinhaven.
Ja, ik ga weer even terug naar mijn vraag, want de conclusie is dat ik geen enkel concreet voorstel gehoord heb van hoe u slachtoffers van seksueel misbruik hebt geholpen. Er is geen geld geregeld, er zijn geen concrete voorstellen gedaan. Wat ik wel hoor is een verwijzing naar...
Oké, maar wat heb jij zelf gedaan dan? Mevrouw, hoe heet ze?
Het onderzoek. En juist uit dat onderzoek... Nee, even nog één stap terug. Wat ik wel hoor zijn allerlei complottheorieën waarmee geïnsinueerd wordt dat seksueel misbruik wordt georganiseerd en in stand gehouden wordt vanuit de overheid. En dat...
Nou, we kennen de Demmingzaak nog, hè? Ja. De overheid zegt, nee, er is niks aan de hand, niks aan de hand, niks aan de hand. En dat je die ene gast, hoe heette die ook alweer? We Are Change Rotterdam was een heel mooi kanaal waar allerlei dingen op stond waar de overheid er niet tegen kan. Die hadden toen iemand geïnterviewd. Ja, ik ga niet opnemen tegen de staat, hoor. Nee, dat doe ik niet. Hoe heet die gast ook alweer? Karel Maasdam of zo, hè, zoiets. Weet ik veel hoe die heet. Maar die heeft verschrikkelijke dingen gedaan. Moest zelf in behandeling. En noem het allemaal maar op. Ja. Of het gefaciliteerd wordt door de overheid, dat is maar de vraag. We weten wel dat de overheid instellingen heeft, zoals jeugdzorg, die dus gewoon kinderen, ongeacht wat de gezinssituatie is, gewoon kinderen afpakt en zoiets allemaal. Het is echt heel, heel erg triest. En zo heb je dus een getraumatiseerde bevolking.
Blijkt uit geen van deze onderzoeken. Wat wel blijkt uit die onderzoeken is dat deze complottheorieën schadelijk zijn voor slachtoffers, omdat ze juist minder snel geloofd worden. U zegt hier op te komen voor de slachtoffers, maar u doet het tegendeel.
Nee, jij doet het tegendeel. Ja? Je neemt ze niet serieus. Als iemand naar iemand anders toe gaat en zegt van nou, die daar, die hoge pief, die heeft iets met mij gedaan. Dan moet je die gaan geloven. Geloven. Nou, dat gebeurt niet. Er wordt meteen terzijde gezet. Complottheorie. Meteen een complottheorie. Nee, je moet die mensen geloven. Ze hebben iets meegemaakt. En het is al exceptioneel genoeg dat ze hierover durven te vertellen.
Dat was niet echt een vraag, maar ik geef de heer Van Meijeren wel de gelegenheid om daar nog op te reageren, als hij dat wil.
Ja, mevrouw Steinhaven geeft aan dat ze geen enkel concreet voorstel heeft gehoord. Ik heb toch juist aangegeven dat ik het concrete voorstel heb gedaan in de vorm van een motie om een onderzoek te laten plaatsvinden dat onafhankelijk is van het ministerie van Justitie. Juist ook omdat ambtenaren van het ministerie van Justitie hierbij betrokken zouden zijn. Die worden beschuldigd door slachtoffers. Dus ja, nogmaals, ik heb inderdaad ook geen vraag gehoord. Ik blijf erbij. Wij zullen dit bij iedere gelegenheid ter sprake blijven brengen in de hoop dat er langzaamaan meer bewustzijn gecreëerd wordt. En ja, die verhalen over complottheorieën, die vind ik nogal goedkoop. Kijk, ik baseer me op onderzoek in dit geval van het onderzoeksplatform Argos. Toch een gerenommeerd platform dat zeer diepgravend en uitvoerig onderzoek heeft verricht. Die zogenaamde complottheorie die worden ondersteund door forensisch bewijs. Het meisje dat heeft aangegeven dat ze is zwanger geraakt en is bevallen van een baby, werd niet geloofd. Ze werd voor een complotdenken uitgescholden. En toen in één keer waren er gynaecologen die na onderzoek hebben bevestigd dat ze inderdaad zwanger is geweest, bevallen is van een baby.
So, for the international audience, there's a journalistic crew named Argos, right? And they had this research about a girl that was raped by a higher up, and she was not, no one believed her and stuff like that. And eventually the truth came out, and Argos published it, and that is why Gideon Vermeijeren is saying this about ritual child abuse, right? So because Argos was researching this.
Een arts die heeft verklaard dat er een slachtoffer bij haar is geweest met glasscherven in haar vagina die ze daar onmogelijk zelf in heeft kunnen aanbrengen. Dus ik zou mevrouw Seinhaven willen verzoeken om in plaats van alles gemakzuchtig als complottheorie weg te zetten, om zich eens echt te verdiepen in dit onderwerp. Ga ook eens in gesprek met slachtoffers. Ze hebben u allemaal benaderd, ze hebben u brieven gestuurd. Ook van mevrouw Seinhaven, geen reactie gehad. En dat is wat de slachtoffers heel erg schoffeert. Dus ik vind het een beetje makkelijk om hier de boel om te draaien, te doen alsof ik hier iets zou doen dat niet in het belang is van de slachtoffers.
Het was een lange reactie, maar ik verzoek u om verder te gaan met uw bijdrage. Gaat u verder.
Voorzitter, in oktober 2020 besloot de voltallige Tweede Kamer dat er een onafhankelijk onderzoek zou moeten plaatsvinden naar de aard en omvang van dit georganiseerde, sadistische misbruik om een effectieve opsporing van deze netwerken mogelijk te maken.
So in 2020, the whole parliament had said we need an independent investigation on the ritual child abuse and stuff like that. And ever since, no one has heard anything ever since, right? It's gone, gone in the annals of history.
Maar dat onafhankelijke onderzoek heeft tot op de dag van vandaag niet plaatsgevonden. De regering had al eerder in reactie op Kamervragen laten weten helemaal niets te zien in zo'n onderzoek. Maar om toch voor de beeldvorming tegemoet te komen aan de motie werd nota bene door toenmalig minister Grapperhaus een commissie in het leven geroepen die onder zijn totale controle een onderzoek zou moeten doen. Het onderzoek werd niet alleen ingesteld door de minister van Justitie, maar hij had zichzelf ook de bevoegdheid gegeven om de leden van die commissie te benoemen,
So the former Minister of Justice had made a commission which, he could choose who would be in the commission, right?
en te ontslaan, het plan van aanpak goed te keuren, de slachtofferverklaringen allemaal te beheren en de uitkomsten van het onderzoek te controleren voordat die naar de Kamer gestuurd zouden worden. Vanzelfsprekend leidde deze gang van zaken tot grote verontwaardiging en wantrouwen bij de slachtoffers. Want hoe kan een onderzoek naar vermeend ritueel misbruik door onder andere ambtenaren van het ministerie van Justitie nou geloofwaardig worden verricht onder de paraplu van justitie?
So the people, the people harmed by this don't trust anything, right? Because you have a minister of justice who can, make his own panel on researchers about child ritual abuse, So all the people that were abused say, this is no good.
En als voorzitter van die commissie benoemde de minister nota bene Jan Hendricks. Iemand die er publiekelijk in de media voor pleit om het bezit van kinderporno te legaliseren, zodat pedofielen zich onder andere wat meer geaccepteerd zouden gaan voelen. Hoe verzin je het om een onderzoek naar pedonetwerken te laten plaatsvinden door iemand die sympathiseert met pedofielen?
Meneer Van...
So this commission was run by someone who is basically a pedophile himself, right? It's like, oh my God, man. This is what's happening in the Netherlands. And there's a lot more happening. We also have the pro-Palestine, pro-Palestina, Palestina, Tweede Kamer. There. For people sitting in the hall of Parliament, right? There's a very big hall and rooms and stuff, and people were sitting on the ground and saying all sorts of chants from the river to the sea and stuff like that. So we're going to take a look at this here.
Deze mensen zijn net van de publieke tribune afgestuurd. Ze zijn actie aan het voeren om Palestina te bevrijden. En zingen leuzen waar iedereen altijd weer over zegt, kan dat wel?
From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Not a conflict, not a war.
Hoort u bij deze club? Nee, je hoort er niet bij?
Ik hoor erbij,
Waarom?
maar ik ga niks zeggen.
Maar wij vroegen ons af waarom jullie toch die best wel heftige zin from the river to the sea, Palestine will free. Wat bedoelen jullie daar precies mee?
Ik ga daar niks over zeggen.
Waarom zingen jullie?
So he's asking, what do you mean by the river to the sea, Palestine will be free? And this guy, girl, I don't know what person is saying, I'm saying nothing. I am part of the group, but I'm saying nothing. So this happened during the debates yesterday, and in Parliament there's this balcony where the audience can go watch and stuff, and people were shouting from the balcony, and they were being let out into the hallway, and they sat down, from the river to the sea. Now, I'm wearing a Palestinian scarf because I'm for the underdog, right? The Palestinians cannot defend themselves. If we look at what happened a couple of days ago, there was this convoy, right? And delivering flour and stuff like that, food. And you see all these Palestinians go to that truck, and they were shot. They were shot at. Not once, twice. This happened twice, right? So, and the Jewish people actually also said, from the river to the sea, Israel will be free, right? But when people say this, it's like, oh, that's bad, anti-Semitic. Really? I can go on a tangent on how Israel started off, right, in the lands of Palestine. So, remember on October 7th, you guys remember this? We were told that Hamas leaders were raping women and chopping heads off babies and stuff like that. Never happened. It never happened. Propaganda. That's what's going on. And there are people who know, and trying to warn other people. And it's very sad to see that the people in power are also aware of what's happening. Hey, wait a minute. Waar blijft hem? There, that's better. I guess. Are we still live? Let's see. Kan zijn dat we in één keer uit de lucht zijn, hè? Ja, want je hebt het over bepaalde dingen. Kan zijn dat we in één keer Nee, we zijn er nog. We're still here. So, let's share our screen again. And let's look outside of the Netherlands, right? Let's take a look at Ukraine, for example, right? The cookie monster is out. Nuland retires from State Department. Finally. Let's take a look at this here.
Paul, you've been playing hooky.
I had to do a whole lot of maneuvering to get the days off.
They said you were just relaxing on a beach with pina
to
coladas.
relax, rested my voice. Well, anyway, I'm glad to be back for several reasons. When I look and try to get caught up on all the news and things, it's a little depressing.
Yeah.
And you know, the first thing I said, Daniel, well, we picked these three things to deal with, but they're all talking about the enemy.
Yeah.
But I guess our friends out there need to know about the enemy too, because all of them at times claim they're biggest friends of liberty and democracy.
Oh yeah, human rights.
But the one that caught our attention, because we've talked about this young lady for a long time, we always wished her well, that she would change her mind and become a citizen of the libertarianism. But she hasn't quite made that. But we have talked about her. And I've always liked to talk about the issues over the personalities, but you know what? You could do that and you can modify your language, but you can't really do it without identifying the personalities, you know. But there's a lot of demagoguery goes on in politics, and all you have to do is listen to the presidential election. There's a lot of gab and a lot of accusations, a lot of noise. But the person we want to talk today about is Nuland. Victoria Nuland. And she's been around a while. She was a friend of Dick Cheney, so I guess she probably supported all those wars, don't you think? Or started them. And she also has been on both sides of the fence. You know, if it's a Democrat, you know, she got along with Obama. So she can get along with both parties as long as they're neo-connish. And sometimes I think she's not just neo-connish, she's a 1+ up above it, because she just is determined. I can't imagine. Could she be making any money on this? Nobody would do this just to make money.
No, of course not.
But anyway, we're going to be talking about her. The main reason is about this stuff going on in Ukraine, and the financing there, and the Iraq War, and all the things that she's been involved in. But of course, she was involved in the coup. It was 2014, and I heard Tucker Carlson talking about this, and he was very much aware that 2014 was a big deal. But that shouldn't surprise any of us. So anyway, right now, what's the news? Is she getting promoted or demoted? That's what I want to know.
It's a big story that broke this morning, and if you put on that first clip, this is the AP's take on it. Victoria Nuland, third highest ranking U.S. diplomat and critic of Russia's war in Ukraine, is retiring. Now this is out of the blue. She's had a very high profile recent couple of weeks. She was in Kiev, and she gave a major talk at the CSIS neocon think tank in Washington, D.C. And in both of those, she said Russia should expect a few surprises coming up. She's been the biggest hawk there is. And all of a sudden, she's retiring. And some people have commented, well, she's only 62. You know, as a government employee, that's a little young to retire. I don't know the details of it, but it seems like an abrupt departure, particularly for someone who's always said Russia's winning. I mean, Russia's losing, Ukraine is going to win. So if Ukraine is on the verge of winning, why would she miss her chance at a victory lap? That's the big question. But before we go into maybe more of the whys, just to remind people of what Victoria Nuland's role has been. Now, we'll take a deeper dive before, but in the context of Ukraine, put on the next clip. This is what she's most famous for. So there was massive demonstrations 10 years ago, almost to the week, in Ukraine, in Kiev. The people in the streets overthrew a democratically elected and universally recognized government in Ukraine. And in the midst of the chaos and violence, here comes a senior State Department employee and the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine handing out cookies and showing signs of support, not to the government that we recognize, but to the rebels overthrowing the democratic order. And after that happened, put on this next picture, here she is smiling and laughing with unelected people that she helped get appointed to the coup government. So the thing is, Dr. Paul, if you can imagine, if we had, okay, imagine if the January 6th riot, or whatever you want to call it, was actually an insurrection. And it really was. And these guys, instead of putting their feet on Nancy Pelosi's chair, they were really serious and had guns, and they were shooting people. Now imagine if the Chinese ambassador brought some Chinese diplomats right into the middle of it and stood in the middle of the Capitol and said, keep it going, guys, we're with you, we have some guns.
She's a loyal soldier herself,
Yeah,
isn't she?
she is.
But the bigger thing is figuring out to whom is she so loyal.
Yeah.
And the one thing we know is, just generally speaking, people like this, they cite democracy and freedom and the Constitution.
Yeah.
And we know that is just insanity to believe that kind of stuff. But they.
It is insane to believe that, Victoria Nuland did this for democracy and blah, 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 blah. We know, right? We know that Victoria Nuland went to Niger after the coup over there, and she said, you have to place back the president you overthrew. So in one country, she is for a coup, which is Ukraine, but in Niger, she's like, guys, you guys did a coup. The guy in power should come back, So this is Victoria Nuland for you. She is a monster. Not only a cookie monster, giving out cookies to the people who overthrew a democratically elected government, right? She's just a monster, So, ja. Victoria Nuland, mensen, die houdt ermee op. Ja, iemand van de State Department, die was dus betrokken in Oekraïne. Die heeft allerlei mensen omvergeworpen en zo. En geeft koekjes aan de mensen die een democratische regering hebben omvergeworpen. En daar is niks aan de hand. Maar toen Niger een coup deed, toen Niger hun leiders gingen afzetten, toen kwam Victoria Nuland die zei van, nou jongens, degene die we hebben afgezet, die moet weer aan de macht. Hè. Dat is Victoria Nuland. Dat is haar buitenlandbeleid. Het is ongelooflijk triest. Heel, heel erg triest. Maar we mogen blij zijn dat hij uiteindelijk toch weg is gegaan. Ja, met pensioen zogenaamd. Ja, oké. We zullen wel weer zien in welke hallen van de politiek zij terechtkomt. Mocht ze ooit terugkomen in de politiek. Hopelijk niet. Hopelijk niet. We do not want Victoria Nuland and such, We don't want that. Even kijken. Ik zie hier zo. Mensen vergeten vaak dat Hitler ook democratisch aan de macht kwam. Nou, niet helemaal. Niet helemaal. Kijk, Hitler had een fascistische partij. Ze hebben geweld gebruikt. Zo van, jij moet op ons gaan stemmen, anders gaan we jou en je familie in elkaar beslaan. Of erger. Nou, zo krijg je wel stemmen binnen. Dat is fascisme. Ja? Daar hebben wij tegen gevochten in de Tweede Wereldoorlog. Dus, ja mensen, we gaan ook even kijken naar Haiti. Daar is het ook los aan het gaan. Echt, sinds 2021. Vorige uitzending zei ik 2019. Maar 2021 is dus een president vermoord. En ja, sindsdien heb je dus bendes die de macht hebben in Haiti. Je hebt één zo'n gast, een voormalig politieagent, noemt zichzelf Barbecue. Ja, serieus. En die zegt van als de president terugkomt, dan wordt het oorlog. Ja. Want er is dus een nieuwe president aan de macht gekomen in Haiti, waar niemand op gestemd heeft. Hij is geselecteerd uit de partij van de voormalige president. En ja, er zouden nieuwe verkiezingen komen in Haiti na de aanslag, maar dat is nooit gebeurd. Dus nu heb je de bendeleiders die allemaal bij elkaar komen en die ja, heel veel schade aanrichten in Haiti. Meneer Barbecue staat voorop. Ja, we gaan even kijken naar wat beelden uit Haiti. So we're going to take a look at Haiti and Mr. Barbecue.
Si Ariel Henry pas démissionné, le pays a aller droite. Nous faire un génocide. Si Ariel Henry pas démissionné, si la communauté internationale là continue à supporter Ariel Henry, il a mené nous directement dans une guerre civile et qui a débouché sur un génocide.
Since months, we are working together.
C'est soit Haïti tourne paradis pour nous tous, ou bien la tourne l'enfer pour nous tous. Pas de question qu'on petit groupe monde chita dans gros hôtel et puis a fin décider pour monter dans le quartier populaire.
Les membres du gouvernement entrants et commanditaires devront être identifiés et faire
Tout le week-end, de nombreuses organisations
N'a déjà dit à mettre du feu. Pas qu'il y a dit à faire ou pas faire. Tout ça, il dit à faire, il te dit à caser prison, au caser. Il te dit, commissariat, ça a boulé quand même, il a boulé. Ça veut dire, il a montré que la police, ça n'a pas d'importance dans le visage de la population. Le premier objectif de bataille, c'est assurer nous que le gouvernement Ariel Henry n'est pas sous pouvoir encore et que n'importe façon, nous-mêmes,
So this is happening in Haiti, right? It's going from bad to worse. Gang warfare plunges Haiti capital into crisis. This is 4 hours ago. We're going to take a look at this here. This is from yesterday, the video, I believe. Oh, that's 2 hours ago. Okay. So, yeah, we're also going to take a look at this here.
A violent scene unfolds in Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince. Police were able to stop an attempted kidnapping. A man is left severely injured. His wife cries out in despair. He's a collateral victim caught in the crossfire. The police firing shots only adds to the chaos. Three men are arrested. They're suspected of being involved with the abduction of a lorry driver. In Haiti, anyone can be kidnapped and held for ransom. The man is still alive and is rushed away in this taxi.
We didn't used to hear shootings around here. It was normally downtown. Today, it's everywhere.
Extortion and kidnappings have become a common trade to finance the gangs. Since the assassination of the Haitian president in 2021, the country has been plunged even further into political chaos and insecurity. 80% of the capital today is controlled by criminal groups. Haitian police officers attempt to regain control of parts of the city. In a bullet-riddled tank, this elite unit gears up for a face-off with a gang. Making their way through Mariani, a neighborhood west of Port-au-Prince.
The residents here are desperate. The area has been occupied for some time by armed men, civilians. We're here to put them out of their misery.
Their mission is to retake a slaughterhouse occupied by a gang. The team is guided by a drone as they move toward the building. Tension is high.
This is how a fallen state looks like. And, you know, very, very sad thing to see that the people in Haiti are, you know, dealing with this every day. Ja, mensen, zo ziet de gevallen staat uit. De mensen in Haiti maken dit dagelijks mee. Heel veel geweld op straat, mensen worden beschoten, noem het allemaal maar op. Dit is een gevallen staat. Dat kun je wel stellen. En het is heel vreemd, hè. Want als we nou gaan kijken naar Haiti, er is ook een land daarnaast. En die doet het dan heel goed, hè. De Dominicaanse Republiek. Die doet het dan heel goed. So in the Dominican Republic, everything is okay, right? The politics there is a lot better than in Haiti. But, you know, they don't want any Haitians in their country. So it's a very, very bad situation in Haiti. And, you know, what can we do about it? You'd say the US Senate would do something, right? Because it's near the US and a lot of refugees from Haiti go to the US, right? So, you know, that is next to you guys over there in the US. You guys have to solve this, right? The last president over there in Haiti was assassinated also by the State Department, right? Dit gebeurt, de vorige president die in 2021, niet 2019, dat zei ik gisteren, moet mezelf toch wel corrigeren, zo af en toe. Maar die president is door de deep state in Amerika doodgegaan. En ja, wat doet Amerika eraan? Hè? Niks. Een vervallen staat. Dit gebeurt, mensen, dit gebeurt. En ja, we houden er gewoon bij wat er allemaal gebeurt. Hè? We kijken gewoon rond in de wereld. En ja, snap je? Dus dat is in Haiti gaande. We gaan ook even kijken naar Al Jazeera en kijken wat die nog te zeggen hebben over Gaza. Want daar gaan we ook ons blik op richten. De Palestijnen die dan eigenlijk geen humanitaire hulp krijgen, niks van hulp, en mogen uitsterven. So we're going to take a look at Gaza, right? What's happening in Gaza. The people cannot defend themselves. They are being starved out, right? We saw the flower massacre, and a lot of people are like, flower massacre, huh? Yep, we're going to show the flower massacre. And hopefully we have videos here. I do have to warn, it's very, very shocking content, right? We gaan even naar Gaza kijken. Al Jazeera die heeft het over Gaza en the flower massacre. Yeah, Israeli massacre in Gaza.
In Gaza City this hour, where the Israeli military has killed at least 104 Palestinians. Nearly 700 people have also been injured, dozens of them in critical condition. Thursday's attack has been described as a massacre of civilians. Hundreds of starving Palestinians had gathered to collect food aid when they were attacked. Israel's army says its soldiers were forced to open fire because they felt threatened by the crowds. Michael Apple explains how it all unfolded.
In the early hours of the morning, thousands of people flocked to Al Rashid Road, southwest of Gaza City, desperate for aid. Aerial footage released by the Israeli military shows crowds gathering around what looks like several aid trucks. By the time the sun rose, the extent of what happened was clear. The dead and the dying lying side by side, gunned down by Israeli fire.
So you give humanitarian help, right? Give flour or you know, whatever, and then you kill them? Really? Dus eerst geef je hulp en daarna ga je op ze schieten, echt waar? Serieus? Ja mensen, dit gebeurt in Gaza en ik kan me best voorstellen dat er ook Nederlanders zijn die hier kwaad over zijn. Die dan gaan demonstreren bij de Tweede Kamer. Ja, I can imagine that there are angry people that would demonstrate about this in our parliament, such as this person here and these people here, right? Oh, gevaarlijk, gevaarlijk. Oh, that's dangerous. We got people sitting on the ground shouting that the Palestinians must be left alone. Oh, that's dangerous. Oh, that is dangerous. Oh, anti-Semitic and bla 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 bla. We gaan ook even kijken naar Bosma, hoe die reageert. Zo, kijken of we dat kunnen vinden. Dus van 4 maanden geleden. Ah ja, hier. So we're going to take a look at this. And I believe there's also, you know, some reactions from Parliament. Even kijken, dus 6 dagen geleden. This was a memorial of a former Prime Minister van Acht, who was also pro-Palestinian, you know, and this was 6 days ago, roughly a week ago. And we're going to take a look at this here first.
Nee, wilt u alsjeblieft weggaan? Ik schors de vergadering voor enige momenten.
So she's like, I don't understand that you guys are, and then Bosma says, nope, we're not going to have this. You know, you guys got to go. And so we have no sound. Yeah. Then the microphone is off, right? You're not allowed to speak truth in the Dutch parliament. Nope. Only politicians are allowed to do that. Ja, mensen, zo gaat het eraan toe in ons parlement. Deze mensen worden weggejaagd. Ja.
Ik vervolg. Een bijzonder woord van welkom aan de hier aanwezige familie. In de voorzittersloge bevinden zich dochters Caroline en Eugenie, een schoonzoon plus kleinkinderen, hartelijk welkom. En ook de minister-president en minister van Binnenlandse Zaken en iedereen op de publieke tribune. Nu wel, heet ik van harte welkom. 3 weken.
So this here Mark Rutte, everyone hates him in the Netherlands. He is a neo-Nazi, right, supporting Nazis in Ukraine. And saying we're going to give 10-year more support to Ukraine without Parliament even knowing about this. Rutte heeft in de demissionaire status gewoon gezegd, ja, we geven nog 10 jaar support aan Oekraïne, zonder dat het parlement hierover iets te zeggen had. Heel, heel erg triest. Ja, dat gebeurt. Zo, kijken of we andere beelden kunnen vinden. So this is from yesterday.
Naar rondtuig is daar weer.
Hoe heeft het kunnen gebeuren? Waarom duurde het zo verschrikkelijk lang voordat er werd ingegrepen? En hoe voorkomen we dat dit nooit meer gebeurt?
Laat ons Huis van Democratie een plek zijn waar wij vurig van mening kunnen verschillen. En dat doen wij hier. En laat dat de plek zijn in plaats van dat we allerlei sit-ins in ons huis houden.
Ik zou het presidium ook graag de vraag willen stellen om zich te buigen over de vraag hoe het opkomen voor de rechten van Palestijnen in dit huis te pas en te onpas het label van antisemitisme krijgt opgeplakt en hoe dat bijdraagt aan een klimaat van onveiligheid voor heel veel mensen die dit pleidooi wensen te houden.
Ze nemen dus ook materialen mee naar binnen, in dit geval vlaggen. Als je attributen hier kan meesmokkelen, kunnen het ook andere attributen zijn die wat gevaarlijker zijn dan de vlag alleen. En ik wil ook aan het presidium vragen om daar aandacht aan.
So here we have Caroline van der Plas, the BBB, right, saying they're bringing in flags and maybe they can bring in other stuff which can be dangerous. Echt, wat een politici, man. Wat een bange scheid het zijn dit. Allemaal criminelen. Ze weten dat ze crimineel zijn.
Aan te besteden.
Ja, deze gebeurtenis waar ik plaatsvangende schaamte voor krijg, dat die nooit meer...
Waar ik plaatsvervangende schaamte voor krijg, Geert Wilders, is dat jij naar Tel Aviv toe gaat en tegen de Joodse bevolking zegt, de Westbank is voor jullie. Daar schaam ik me voor. Jij met je Partij van de Vrijheid, ga toch weg, man. Wiens vrijheid ben je voor?
Voorkomt, maar ook dat degenen die dat gedaan hebben keihard worden gestraft.
Oh, die moeten keihard worden gestraft. Maar Israël, nee, die verdedigt zich. So we have Wilders who went to Tel Aviv a long time ago as a Dutch politician, and he said to the Israelis, you guys take over the West Bank, it's all yours. You know, I'm not going to say anything about that. And this guy calls himself the Party for Freedom. Ja, ga toch weg, man. Jongen. Er is een perversiteit in de politiek dat gewoon absurd is. Kinderen sterven in Gaza omdat ze geen eten krijgen. Children are dying by malnourishment, right? They get no food. And we have Dutch politicians who are drunk with power and stuff like that, you know, and saying that this is a real big scandal. Oh, this cannot happen. These people must be punished. But what about the Israelis, the IDF soldiers, right? We're just following orders. Yeah, right. Echt, wat een wereld is dit, man. Maar ja, het wordt nog erger. It's worse. It's even worse than all this, right? If we look at Canada, the C-23 bill has passed. Now, what is the C-23 bill? That was the Internet Rules and Regulations bill has passed and is going to be implemented in Canada on Monday, coming Monday, right? And we're going to take a look at that. Let's see if we can find it. There we go. Trudeau just shocked the world with creepy authoritarian law. It's not good. So let's take a look at what Russell Brand has to say about this.
Internet safety is a subject talked about in most households.
Is it?
Especially with vulnerable family members.
So I'm talking about my household. What's going on with these weird new laws to censor people and shut down dissent? Is there anyone worth voting for anywhere in the world?
Especially with vulnerable family members, young kids or seniors.
Seniors? I'm not worried about the elderly. I'm not worried about my dad. Dad, what are you doing? Actually, he should be controlled what he puts on the internet. He's a pain in the ass. But generally speaking, the elderly aren't the issue, are they? What they're doing and what they generally do is present a situation where they are our protectors in order to take our power and security. It's such an obvious scheme now. They're such grifters. It's so plain, I can't believe we continue to believe it.
The Liberal government is hoping its long-promised online harms bill will help protect people. The latest version is set to be introduced tomorrow.
The Liberals' long-awaited online harms bill will be introduced Monday.
Why do I keep saying it's long-awaited and long-promised? Like, where's that online harms bill? Quick, my children!
Won't somebody please think of the children?
That's not the actual issue. You're a person. Trust yourself a bit more. Trust your own instinct and evaluation of your own life. What are your problems? Is it resources? Is it expense?
The actual issue is that government is totalitarian. Right, whatever you say on the internet, it's registered and stuff like that. You know, it's really, really sad. A track and trace society, that is what we are, right? And government is trying to say what you are allowed to say and what not.
Is it a crisis of meaning? Is it sort of despair? Is it total distrust and breakdown of society and culture? Is it a kind of weariness from dealing with the deluge of information from people that are telling you that they're protecting you from misinformation that appears to be oddly untrue, like this?
The latest in a series of sweeping and controversial internet regulations.
Things shouldn't be sweeping and controversial at the same time. If you're going to sweep something, make sure everyone bloody well agrees with it.
We need to make sure, and I think we can all agree, we need to protect our kids online.
Justin,
we need to protect our kids from you, Justin Trudeau. Well, we know that you're also watching RHTVLive. We know that that you're not very proud of what RHTVLive says about you. Fuck Trudeau Day.
Agrees with it.
We need to make
fuck Trudeau, right? You are the worst guy ever in Canadian politics, right? You froze bank accounts of people who were funding the truckers who were protesting against your rules. You took away lots of money from people who were funding, a good cause, saying those people were Nazis. Whilst you, Justin Trudeau, You were standing up for a Nazi, right? We have the Canadian Parliament standing up for a Nazi, giving a standing ovation.
Here in the chamber today, Ukrainian-Canadian war veteran from the Second World War who fought the Ukrainian independence against the Russians and continues to support the troops today, even at his age of 98. He's a Ukrainian hero, a Canadian hero, and we thank him for all his service.
Was responsible for the mass murder of innocent civilians with a level of brutality and malice that is unimaginable, right? And this is what Trudeau stands up for, giving an applaud. Ah, good, you're fighting off Russians, yay, that's good. But you were a Nazi, and we're not going to look at that. Nope. But the Speaker of the House, he went away because he was supporting a Nazi. I did not know. I'm sorry.
I wish to make a brief statement. I wish to apologize to the House.
I'm sorry.
No one, including you, my fellow parliamentarians, or the Ukraine delegation, was privy to my remarks prior to their delivery.
I also want an investigation, right? Why is Justin Trudeau standing up for a Nazi, right, while saying the truckers of Canada are bad people? I want an investigation, damn it. We'll probably never get it, but, you know. So we have that going on, right? The Canadian Parliament has a new internet bill, so-called protecting you from bad people, whilst they were applauding a bad person who killed millions of people. Right? This pisses me off. It's really, really sad to see that all these criminals can get away with it. You know, what about Zbigniew Brzezinski? You know, saying God is on your side to, you know, the Mujahideen that basically split up into three opposing parties, the Taliban, the Northern Alliance, and Al Qaeda. Now, who did 9/11? And now the US is supporting the Taliban whilst they were fighting the Taliban for 20 odd years, right? And now they're supporting the Taliban fighting off ISIS-K. We're going to take a look at this here.
US National Security Advisor Brzezinski flew to Pakistan to set about rallying resistance. He wanted to arm the Mujahideen without revealing America's role. On the Afghan border near the Khyber Pass, he urged the soldiers of God to redouble their efforts.
We know of their deep belief in God, and we are confident that their struggle will succeed. That land over there is yours. You'll go back to it one day because your fight will prevail and you'll have your homes and your mosques back again because your cause is right and God is on your side.
Oh, God is on your side, huh? Yeah, okay. We're going to show the Khyber Pass, right? Here we have the Khyber Pass over here near Peshawar and not far from the capital, Kabul, right? So here we have Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, and here at the border, Zbigniew Brzezinski was saying, you know, your weapons, here's your money, God is on your side, get those darn Russians, right? Because Russia was in Afghanistan back then, you know, get those darn Russians. And this is how the Taliban grew and gained power, right? After the Mujahideen fell apart. So it's U.S. foreign policy that screws up everything. You know, the same goes with Iran, right? We remember Operation Ajax. Mossadegh, which was an elected president, was thrown aside by Operation Ajax, the propaganda tool, and you know, then the Shah came into power in Iran. And after the Shah came into power, the Iranian people were like, hey, this is not the leader we want. We're going to have a revolution. Yeah. So the Shah left Iran, and the people voted in the Ayatollah, right? And the Ayatollah did not forget what happened back in the 50s, overthrowing a democratically elected leader and stuff like that. So they have a hatred for the US and also Israel, right? They're a thorn in the side for Israel. And Israel is also targeting Iranian military places in Syria and stuff like that. Now, why is Iran in Syria? We tried to overthrow Syria. Remember that? So Syria asked Iran and Russia for help, and it's a frozen conflict. Russia is now focusing on Ukraine, right? They left Armenia to its own demise, basically, Nagorno-Karabakh, right, which is a region in Azerbaijan that was partly Armenian, and they needed to leave Nagorno-Karabakh. This happened last year. We're going to take a look at that. Nagorno. So we're going to take a look at some people within the region of Nagorno-Karabakh, right? So let's take a look at this here. The Armenian and Azerbaijani War explained.
Is internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan, but was occupied by Armenia in a war almost 30 years ago. Both countries' armies have been dug in along this line ever since. Fighting occasionally broke out, but usually died down. This time was different. Fierce fighting erupted in September 2020 and quickly became a full-scale war. Both sides were accused of bombing civilian areas in the region. Thousands of people died, including 100 civilians. Then, in a sudden and dramatic turn in this decades-old conflict, Armenia surrendered. A ceasefire was signed on November 9th and Azerbaijan declared victory. So, what sparked this war? And what does the ceasefire mean for this fiercely contested place?
So this was 3 years ago, right? And there was a ceasefire, and the land has been taken over, basically. Yeah, Azerbaijan invades Nagorno-Karabakh. Let's take a look at this here. This is more accurate.
This video was brought to you by Imprint. For the past few years, Armenia and Azerbaijan have been fighting over a disputed bit of land called Nagorno-Karabakh. As the larger and wealthier country, Azerbaijan has always had the upper hand in these disputes. But with Armenia's main security partner, Russia, busy in Ukraine, Azerbaijan has really started tightening the screws recently. Since about 2021, Azeri forces have been engaging in regular skirmishes along the Azerbaijan-Armenia border. And late last year, they cut off the main road into Nagorno-Karabakh, essentially sieging the territory. And in order to end this siege, Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan even apparently floated giving up Nagorno-Karabakh during EU-mediated talks back in March. But negotiations were ultimately unsuccessful. With little incentive to continue negotiations then, last week Azerbaijan started deploying troops around Nagorno-Karabakh, and on Tuesday morning, Azeri forces started shelling the territory, with the Azerbaijan foreign minister announcing that it was the beginning of a, quote, anti-terrorist operation. So in this video, we're going to take a look at why the two countries are even fighting, what happened earlier this week, and why Azerbaijan will probably end up regaining control of Nagorno-Karabakh. Just quickly, we announced recently that we're making a physical TLDR newspaper. So if you want to learn more or order this pretty silly one-off collector's item, then there's a link to the announcement video and the store in the description. Pre-orders close October 1st. So let's get straight into it. On Tuesday morning at about 11 a.m, Azerbaijan announced that they were performing what they described as a local anti-terrorist operation and were sending its troops into the disputed region that Azerbaijan calls Nagorno-Karabakh and Armenia calls Artsakh. For context, since the collapse of the Russian Empire at the beginning of the 20th century, Armenia and Azerbaijan have argued over this territory, which sits inside Azerbaijan but is mostly populated by ethnic Armenians. Now, there was a brief war over the area, which was essentially won by Armenia, who kicked out the Azeris and set up an autonomous administration called the Republic of Artsakh. In theory, the Republic of Artsakh was designed to be independent from Armenia, but in practice, it's very much aligned with the Armenian government. Despite the fact that Armenia de facto controls the territory, the vast majority of the international community and the UN consider Nagorno-Karabakh to still be part of Azerbaijan. Anyway, this recent so-called anti-terrorist operation began a day after 2 Azeri civilians and 7 soldiers were allegedly killed by landmines planted by Armenian militants on the Fuzuli-Shusha highway, with the Azerbaijani Foreign Ministry even citing this bombing in the announcement of their anti-terror operation. But while these attacks might...
So we have that going on, right? Nagorno-Karabakh is taken over. This was 5 months ago, so it's now taken over by Azerbaijan. And the regional allies of Azerbaijan are Turkey. Now, why is that so important, right? If we look at what Rand Paul had to say about Turkey, right? Turkey is supporting Azerbaijan, fighting a war against Armenia, basically a satellite state of the CSTO, right? The Collective Security Treaty Organization, which is the Russian variant of NATO, and Russia was in Ukraine, so Nagorno-Karabakh was taken over by Azerbaijan. Now Turkey gives all sorts of weapons to Azerbaijan, right? So this is all happening, and let's see if we can find that video clip of Rand Paul talking about Turkey. He basically says that Turkey was extorting, their position in NATO, because NATO wanted to expand. They wanted Sweden and Finland too, right? And Turkey said, nope, we're not going to do that, because Sweden and Finland were supporting the PKK, which is a Kurdish separatist group, right? And Turkey said, if you take away the support, we will, say you are allowed in NATO. So an extortion ring was happening with Turkey, right? Here we have Rand Paul talking about Turkey and how it all works.
16s. You may remember the last time we had a famous case of quid pro quo here. Boy, everybody was all up in a lather, and they said we have to impeach Donald Trump because it's a quid pro quo. Apparently it depends on what the quid is and what the quo is. Quid pro quo, though, is actually more the norm than it is actually the exception. The speakers you've seen here today were adamantly against Turkey and adamantly against them getting the F-35 because they possess a Russian defensive weapon system that may well allow exploitation and allow Americans to become more vulnerable. But now they're adamantly for it because they got Sweden into NATO. Thank God Sweden's in NATO. We can all rest easy. Rewarding Turkey, though, with the sale of $23 billion worth of F-16 fighters, though, has some repercussions, and we should think about it before we do it. I maintained that there are deep concerns about the sale, as it was initially proposed way back in 2021, and I've maintained my opposition, given Turkey's dismal human rights accord, its unreliable behavior as a NATO ally, and its disruptive military actions in the Middle East, the Caucasus, and the Eastern Mediterranean. Congress must not serve as a rubber stamp for President Biden's side deals. The quid pro quo to expand NATO should not come at the expense of rewarding the alliance's most embarrassing member. President Biden pledged to center U.S. foreign policy on the defense of democracy and the protection of human rights. But Biden's own State Department issued a human rights report for Turkey in 2022, which identifies significant human rights issues, including arbitrary killings, suspicious deaths of persons in custody, forced disappearance, torture, arbitrary arrest, and the continued detention of tens of thousands of persons, including opposition politicians, former members of parliament, lawyers, journalists, human rights activists, and even an employee of the U.S. mission. Doesn't sound like one of our best allies.
Now, why was this, right? Why is Erdogan locking up so many people? We will never, ever forget the coup that happened in Turkey. And it was a failed coup, right, in 2016. So we're going to take a look at that. And then you have a better perspective of why leadership Erdogan is doing this, right? So a faction of the army wanted to take over in Istanbul, and they failed. So we're going to take a look at what happened back then.
On the night of July 15, 2016, a rogue faction within the Turkish armed forces orchestrated a coup attempt in a bid to overthrow the elected government. In what was described as one of the longest nights in Turkish political history, the rogue group blocked off bridges, attacked police and intelligence headquarters, raided media offices, and took control of strategic infrastructure. But one thing they underestimated was the power of the people, and the president's transformative call to the public from CNN's Turkish broadcaster.
Milletimizi illerimizin meydanlarına davet ediyorum, havalimanlarına davet ediyorum ve milletçe meydanlarda, havalimanında toplanalım ve bunların o azınlık grubu tanklarıyla, toplarıyla gelsinler, ne yapacaklarsa halka orada yapsınlar.
Unarmed civilians, including women and children, young and old, risked their lives in front of tanks, helicopters, F-16 jets, and other military-grade weaponry, and they succeeded in thwarting the coup, but at a deadly cost.
So this is what happened in Turkey in 2016. And so Erdogan is cleaning out the opposition. This is why there are so many people incarcerated in Turkey, even women and children, right? So we're going to go back to Rand Paul, who was explaining about Turkey.
Human Rights Foundation of Turkey, a non-governmental organization operating out of Ankara, reports that some 1,130 individuals were subjected to torture and other forms of mistreatment while in custody or at extra custodial places, meaning not jail, some out-of-the-way place that no one can see where the torture happens. And this sadly also includes the torture of children. In March 2023, it was reported that a 14-year-old boy on his way home in southeast Turkey was stopped by the police with no justification. He was subsequently abducted and subjected to torture. The police beat him with their guns and, according to the boy's lawyer, tried to force him to say, "I am a Turk, a curse upon the Kurds." When he refused, the police instructed him to memorize the Turkish national anthem by the next day, threatening to shoot him if he failed to do so. The police then bound his hands and threw him into a swamp before local villagers, hearing his cries for help, rescued him and brought him to the hospital. The State Department's report also identifies, our State Department identifies severe restrictions on the freedom of expression and assembly in Turkey, violence and threats of violence against journalists in Turkey, increased censorship, criminal libel laws, and unfortunately much more. Since 2014, it is estimated that more than 160,000 people were investigated for insulting Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and more than 35,000 went to trial. Imagine if it was a crime in the U.S. to criticize the president, how many people would be in jail? Of these trials, 12,881 individuals were convicted, and 3,625 people, including 10 children, were sentenced to prison. While Erdogan is imprisoning men, women, and children for insulting him, he's openly praising Hamas. So these people come to the floor and they say, "Oh, we were against giving the planes to Turkey before we were for giving them, and we don't like that Turkey gives to Hamas, but we're playing real politic here because we want Sweden in NATO, and whether Turkey gives money to Hamas, we're going to turn a blind eye." That, to me, is a quid pro quo not worth taking. After Hamas's brutal October 17th attack on Israel, Erdogan defiantly claimed Hamas is not a terrorist group, it's a liberation group. You think we should be sending our best weapons to
Hamas is not a liberation group. It's an Israeli proxy, right? Israel made Hamas, right? The PLO was disbanded after Arafat had died, and Israel, had all these Palestinians, and said, these people need to go somewhere. We need to check out these people. So we're going to make a group, Hamas, right? So all the Palestinians joined Hamas, basically. It's an Israeli armed proxy cell. This is how it works. This is how they get the Palestinians. They thrive on hate, right? Hamas thrives on hate, and it's being channeled by Hamas, right? So Israel can see which is a Hamas fighter and which is not. It's a very, very clever thing to do. Have your own proxy and try to control that proxy. Well, they cannot control it in Gaza anymore.
To a country that said after one of the worst terrorist activities in modern history, October 7th, Hamas is not a terrorist group. Should we be sending our prized F-16s to a country that says Hamas is not a terrorist group? It's a liberation group, Mujahideen, waging a...
Your father, Rand Paul, explained about Hamas.
Battle to protect its lands and people. No, they went to a concert and killed young people. And we're going to send our weapons to them? Why? Because we made a quid pro quo. We got Sweden in NATO. So we're going to look the other way with Turkey giving money and support to Hamas. Is this the type of government we want to send our weapons to? Shouldn't the United States require countries to reflect our values before we send them billions of dollars worth of advanced weapons? Shouldn't we demand that a NATO ally in particular at least respect the rule of law and basic human rights? President Biden certainly doesn't seem to think so. The United States cannot proudly proclaim human rights to be at the center of our foreign policy while it arms a country that commits gross violations of human rights.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Erdogan either, right? We know that Erdogan is basically bullying lots of countries, such as neighboring Greece, right? Saying that the sea is theirs and stuff like that. It's really, really sad to see. So there are some islands between Turkey and Greece, and some islands Turkey says that's ours, such as Cyprus, right? And that is brewing the conflict between two NATO member states, right? Greece is also a NATO member, and they have Erdogan at their next door, invading northeast of Syria, north of Iraq, and west of Turkey, right? Or not Turkey, Iran. Here we have Iran. So that is all happening, right? But, Putin bad, Putin bad, Putin bad, Putin bad. But Erdogan, throws bombs in Syria, Iraq, and Iran. No, nothing happening there, right? Very, very sad thing to see what's happening. And what's good is that the small conflict between Iran and Pakistan is basically solved, right? Were missiles thrown in Pakistan and Iran, and that has, dissolved into a peaceful term, put it that way. They're still not very good neighbors, Iran and Pakistan. So, but at least they're not throwing missiles at each other, right? We covered that too. Let's see if we can find some images of Iran throwing bombs at Pakistan. Otherwise, people will say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. You are a conspiracy theorist. RHTVLive. So, we're going to take a look at what happened back then. Here we go. Pakistan retaliation strikes hit targets in Iran. DW News. 1 month ago. We covered this already, but repetition is always good.
From returning to his post. All this after Iran carried out strikes against what it called terrorist targets late Tuesday across the border in Pakistan. An attack that Islamabad said killed 2 children. This is video from a local human rights organization, and it's said to show the aftermath of the attack.
No conspiracy theories here. We look at the frame of reality, right? That's what we're doing.
And joining us now from Islamabad is journalist Matiullah Jan. Mr. Jan, can you tell us more about the targets that have been struck and why they have been struck?
Well, a Foreign Office statement has been released now. It is unusual because normally with such kind of military actions, we hear from the military spokesman that is called as Director General Inter-Services Public Relations. But this time about this military operation, we are hearing from the Foreign Office that says that Pakistan undertook a series of highly coordinated and specifically targeted precision military strikes against terrorist hideouts in Sistan of Balochistan province of Iran. And this press release say a number of terrorists were killed during the intelligence-based operation codenamed Marg-Bar Samachar. Right. And Pakistan spokesman has complained about the lack of redressal of complaints over the past many years about presence of anti-Pakistan terrorist groups on Iranian territory. And this spokesman statement reminds the Iranian government about those complaints that Pakistan has been making. And it says that Pakistan fully respects the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Right. Well, this is exactly kind of a copycat reaction from a statement.
So this is all happening, right? We already covered this a month ago. And yeah, this is all the frame of reality that we're watching, right? No conspiracy theories on RHTVLive. So, yeah, we keep our eyes open and we look for the truth, right? So, I hope you guys enjoyed this long broadcast. We're closing off with Ollie the Octopus. I hope you're paying attention. And Charlie, thank you.
Go ahead! So silky, Boris! Salon select! Let Boris speak! Let Boris speak!
You are a true snake, right? All of England was under a lockdown and you were partying at Downing Street, right? At 10 Downing Street. And, you were partying and not keeping social distancing and stuff like that. This is why you needed to go, Boris. And now we have Rishi Sunak. Oh my God.
In the streets of London, the peace has been disturbed. Fires burning everywhere, the language of the unheard. There's a generation thwarted with no ownership and pride, and fat cats with bellies as wide as the rich and poor divide. A broken social contract, bottom up austerity. Oh, we can condemn it, but we're paying attention now, aren't we? Blame it on the hoodies, blame it on the feral youth. But remember, you were young once and you cared about the truth. We sold out to the free market, made a couple of billionaires, and all we got was this mess and McDonald's everywhere. Keep unemployment high, keeps the cost of labour low, keeps young men out on the streets, and well, what do you know? Down to Dixon's, you can take some stuff for free. You can get an Apple Mac and a high-def TV. But if you work in Canary Wharf in a bank too big to fail, there's much better looting going on, and you don't have to go to jail. Steal from a generation for the pockets of a few, but it can only go so far, and you're paying attention now, aren't you? Of London, the peace has been disturbed. Fires burning everywhere, the language of the unheard. There's a generation thwarted with no ownership and pride, and fat cats with bellies as wide as the rich and poor divide. A broken social contract, bottom up austerity. Oh, we can condemn it, but we're paying attention now, aren't we? Blame it on the hoodies, blame it on the feral youth. But remember, you were young once and you cared about the truth. We sold out to the free market, made a couple of billionaires, and all we got was this mess and McDonald's everywhere. Keep unemployment high, keeps the cost of labour low, keeps young men out on the streets, and well, what do you know? Down to Dixon's, you can take some stuff for free. You can get an Apple Mac and a high-def TV. But if you work in Canary Wharf in a bank too big to fail, there's much better looting going on, and you don't have to go to jail. Steal from a generation for the pockets of a few, but it can only go so far, and you're paying attention now, aren't you?
Are we paying attention? Ja, letten we echt wel op. Ik weet het niet. Ik ben in ieder geval blij dat we dit kunnen gaan doen. We kunnen een tegenwoord geven tegen de media. De Nederlandse media heeft het niet over Haiti. Je hebt het hier bij RHTVLive gehoord wat er allemaal in Haiti aan de hand is. Ja, wij weten beter dan de media. En dat is ook de reden waarom je in Canada ook een internetbil hebt die mensen censureert. Ja, ze kunnen niet tegen ons op. Wij zijn het licht. We are the light shining in the darkness. And this is what governments hate. You know, they want control over us. We will never, ever be controlled. I thank you all for watching. And I'll see you guys next time. And Sunday, we are going to Arnhem to see a friend. Ja, zondag zijn we bij de poppenkast, mensen. Ja, en we laten even natuurlijk zien. Oh, zo, daar, poppenkast. Daar zijn we dan. Ja, dus dat is iets om naar vooruit te kijken. We gaan er vandoor. So Sunday I'll be at the poppenkast, right? And yeah, that's something to look on about, right? So we'll see each other again some other time. Thank you all for watching.